everybody. Thank you for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. In this episode, I'm going to make this table, which is a reproduction, obviously, of a Charles Limbert-style lamp table. Many of you are probably familiar with these books. Had them for quite a while. Faded. They have shop drawings of various pieces of craftsman furniture, Stickley Designs, and other people from that era, obviously. I had them for a while. I've made several pieces from these books over the years. And this is a table that I've wanted to make for a while, but never got around to it. And honestly, one of the things that I kind of hesitated on, or I guess I couldn't figure out in the beginning, was how to approach making the size, the mitered size. Reason being, when you look in the book for this table on page 141, the author says that the angles work out to be barely more than 45 degrees. And that, I couldn't quite get my head around that and how I was going to do it. Matter of fact, when I was working on this, kind of putting the project together, I looked at using my track saw and whatnot. Anyway, I decided to make a couple of jigs to help me make the cut. And I thought, I'm going to start at 45 degrees. And if that doesn't work, just using plywood, I'll work my way from there by shimming or whatever the jig. And basically, 45 degrees worked for me. So I never had to make any other adjustments to the jig. And you know, from a mathematical standpoint, I don't understand how it could be anything other than 45 degrees. You know, I got it a SketchUp, and if you just draw this table without, the holes and whatnot, and cut a plane anywhere along the column and look down at the four corners, given that they're square, I don't see how those miters could be anything other than 45 degrees. So anyway, the book said that, and I read that a long time ago, and I was like, okay, I'll make something else until I figure that one out. But I decided to go ahead and do it for this episode because I love the table. And I was at Owl, I found some Sapele. I wanted to make the table out of mahogany. I haven't used mahogany in a while. But the price point for mahogany is a little higher than I wanted to spend right now. And they didn't have a whole lot in stock. Sapele is in the same family as mahogany, and they had a lot of it there at a good price point. So I found some good boards, brought it home, and decided to make it. So right now, this table has a couple of coats of a gloss resin modified tung oil. I don't go through the finishing process in this video. I have a video out on how I approach finishing with that type of finish, tung oil, which you can watch if you want to see more about that. But anyway, I have 2 coats on it now, and hopefully by the time I publish this episode, I will have finished the finishing process. I can show you another picture of it at that point. All right, for now, let's get started. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is run these boards through my belt sander to make sure they're uniform thickness down to about 3/4 of an inch. At 15 inches wide, they're too wide for my thickness planer, so use the belt sander. Now, before my next step, I figured it was time to change the saw blade. Okay, this here is the first of two jigs I'm going to be using to make the sides of this little table. As I mentioned, it's going to be a compound angle cut. I have the blade set at 45, and the sides of the table taper up at 3 degrees. So let me go ahead and start cutting. Put the piece in and start cutting. And here is the second jig to cut the other side. All right, it's time now for me to check the angles. Make sure this thing goes together as expected. Yep, I think 45 degrees is it. And now what I need to do is make a pattern in order to finish cutting the sides. Now I've seen this table, a reproduction of this table, many times, and I've seen this opening at different sizes, and even on here, there are no measurements to tell me, no angles or whatnot, no dimensions for this opening. So I'm just going to make something that I like. The only dimension is the distance from the bottom for this middle tabletop. And that is at 12 3/4 of an inch. I think that'll look nice. Okay, the next thing I need to do is I need to flatten the top and the bottom of each of the sides, given the 3-degree slope of the table. So I set my blade at about 3 degrees. So let me go ahead and run each side across and flatten them. Okay, now it is time to start gluing up the sides. I'm going to glue up 2 sides separately and then bring the whole thing together at the end. I think that might be it for the 2 sides. All right, let's see what we got here. This sat overnight. And went ahead and glued up a couple of panels. Anyone wants a little more detail on how I approach these things, I have a video on these glue ups, but I figured just a couple of panels. Pretty straightforward, no use filming it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is lay out these corbels that attach to the sides of the table. And I have this stock here left over from making the top in that shelf. So I will thicken this plane down to 7/8 of an inch to make them. Now I just have to figure out the shape. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is draw up, a pattern that I can, rough cut a little bit on the bandsaw, do final shaping with my pattern cutting bit. And given the size of these corbels, they're 2 inches, thick by 4 inches long. I need 4. I'm basically going to attach the pattern shape it, and then cut it off. And I need to cut off the end at a 3-degree angle to attach to the top. That'll be easier and safer than trying to cut it to size and then shape it. Could use my sander, but I'm thinking I can use my shaping or pattern cutting bit and make it work. So that's the plan. About 2.5 inches thereabout is right where, you know, the S curve transitions. I like how that looks. I think I like it. Okay, now it's time to at least set up how I'm going to attach these corbels. I'll put them on after the thing is glued up, but I want to set this up now because I know it will be harder once this thing is glued together. And years ago, I made a Morris chair and I attached one of the corbels on crooked, and it's something that haunts me to this day. When I screwed it in place, I felt it twist, but by the time I really went back to inspect it, the glue had set. So luckily this time, since it's end grain to face grain gluing, it's not going to make any difference. It won't help anyway. But anyway, I don't want to repeat of that situation, so. That's on straight. Perfect. Okay, here is the dry assembly. Only these two sides are glued together. The rest is just kind of sitting there. All I have left to do before I start gluing up is I need to add some pocket screw holes along the inside here and here on the inside just to attach the top and the shelf. And then sand it, do some preliminary sanding. And yeah, that's it. All right, I'm going to start with 80 grit on this bottom shelf and work my way up. Figure I'll get this done first and then sand the sides, because then I can put the thing together, glue it up, and keep sanding the top while that base dries. So that's the plan. Now the first round of sanding is done. So now, if I can find my little tray, here it is. I'm going to start the glue up process. All right, this sat overnight. Let's see what we got. Almost ready to start finishing. So I'm going to attach the top. Probably have a little more sanding to do, but we're close. And last but certainly not least, let me add my little stamp. When I had my business, that used to be my company name. Now it just says, my name, son of Mamie and Glenn, who are my mother and father. They've long since passed away, but who knows? Maybe someday that stamp will mean something to somebody. And here is the finished product. I went ahead and wet sanded with some 1500 grit paper this morning and put one more coat on. If I decided to put another coat on, I figured it wouldn't make much difference to you for the camera, so I wanted to go ahead and wrap this episode up and show you how it looks. It's close to dry, I think. Again, I used a gloss resin modified tung oil on this piece. Yeah, that Sapele is very interesting. Very interesting wood. Fun to work with. And that is it. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button. That's always very much appreciated. And if you have not done so already, also please subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications of future content. And as usual, if you have any questions about anything you saw or didn't see me do in this episode, just put those in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. And yeah, that's it for this time. Bye for now.